May has now come to an end, and I saw 18 new movies this month. I know, it's a lie, 18, but we're going to rank them from best to worst right here. So let's waste no time, and let's get right to the tier list. Alright, before we get started, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. It helps a lot. It's free to do so. As I said, we got 18 movies to rank. It's probably going to be a pretty long video, so go get a snack. I'm probably going to try to go a little fast, but yeah, it's going to be decently long. But let's get it started with their first movie, which is Prom Dates. This one came out at the beginning of June, I think. And this, I will say, I really didn't care for this movie. It's like a Hulu original movie, and it felt like a cheap remake of like Booksmart. I don't know if you guys seen Booksmart. I really think Booksmart is amazing. Such a really well done coming of age movie. This just seems like a cheap remake because these two girls, I think one of them's from Jenny and Georgia, one of them is from High School Musical, the series. Their performances were all right, but they, have to get new dates for like prom and all that. Then they start fighting and all that. So it's a true coming of age movie that didn't really move the needle for me at all. Didn't really move the needle for the genre at all. So yeah, I just felt like it was just really really a movie that I think a lot of young girls will like that haven't seen Booksmart, but once you see Booksmart, you won't really care to watch this. So Prom Dates, I'm gonna put that in the bad tier. Then we got Turtles All the Way Down. This is about a girl suffering with high OCD, and she's really kind of having a hard time in her school life, in her personal life. She reunites with her crush in here, and Isabella Merced is the lead of this, and I think this is the best performance that she's ever given. She's also in smaller roles, and she's going to be showing up in The Last of Us 2, and I think in the DC universe. But yeah, I was really impressed with her performance here because she has to really take on a lot. She has to really have some big emotional sequences, and this one is also kind of a coming of age movie you could compare to Prom Dates, and this one is so much better. I feel like it deals with the OCD disorder really well. Take off it's an adaptation of John Green's famous book that I think is great. This one is a little bit different from the book, but I still feel like it really did add some stuff to the book, and I really do think that it being live action really did help, because you honestly could have made this like animated too, and I think it could have worked, but I think the live action route really did work for them. I think it's a really well-rounded movie with 3 acts just moving really well together. But yeah, Isabella Merced really didn't make this movie for me, so I'm gonna put Turtles All the Way Down in the good tier. Now we got I Saw the TV Glow, A24's newest film. Feels like A24 is kind of releasing a new film every month, and I'm not complaining. Kind of adds some really mysterious films to the calendar, because they're always attempting a new genre. This one kind of blew my mind, in a very emotional way, because it's a very hard film to digest. It kind of just made me so anxious while watching, because there's so many scenes in here that are kind of horrifying. And I went into the movie like thinking it's rated R, but it actually is only PG-13. So I guess you can go see this if you're only 13 years old. But do I recommend it? Probably not, because I think you should be a little bit older to watch this movie, which I think it should have been rated R. Kind of deals with gender identity and all that, and I think that what it tries to do there, I think it's handled pretty decently. I feel like it's handled in a way where it's kind of hard to understand. Like after the movie was done, I was like, I'm kind of confused. Got to go on the internet and kind of like, watch some YouTube videos explaining this. So I feel like kind of some of those themes need to be more prominent in here, because they're pretty deep down. You got to really think about that. But there are some pretty horrifying scenes in here. As I said, like there's one scene at a birthday party near the end that I was just horrified with. One scene with kind of like an ice cream guy that horrified me, and just the way it's filmed, the way it's shot, like the sound design here, the score is great, the soundtrack is great, and the performances are all great. But Justice Smith is my clear standout here. He you all know Justice Smith. You probably don't really recognize his name, but if you saw him, you'd probably all recognize him, because he always has a small role in some major movie. He's mostly known for like having a big small role in the Jurassic World movies. But yeah, he is the lead here, and he is just terrific. He kind of changes his voice and all that. They're trying to make him play a really young person, but he does look pretty old. But yeah, this movie, it kind of horrified me, but I did kind of like how it discussed the themes, so I wish the themes were a little bit more prominent. But yeah, I'm gonna give I Saw the TV Glow a great tier, because I thought it was just handled really well in some aspects. Next up is The Idea of You, an Amazon Prime original. Anne Hathaway and Nicholas Galitzini. I think that's how you say his name. I always get his last name wrong. But he was just in Bottoms from last year, with the greatest comedy, and probably the last 5 years. I absolutely love that movie. I think it was handled so well, and I thought he was just a great addition to that. Anne Hathaway is back in another kind of romance movie. I wouldn't say this is a rom-com, because I didn't really find it funny. I'm pretty sure it's just a really it's kind of like a kind of like a dramatic romance, I'd say. It's very dramatic at times, because you see Anne Hathaway going to this guy's concert, and he ends up meeting her, and they kind of like hook up and all that, and it's kind of like a big deal for her, for him, kind of like the social media way, how they're discussing how that would affect both of them in the social media sense, how that affects Anne Hathaway's character's daughter, and how they're perceived at this point in their kind of neighborhood kind of circle. And I really like how this one was handled, because a lot of a lot of romance movies on streaming nowadays are just not that great. They're all just cringy, like Hallmark movies. Thought this one was handled with a lot of care, and you see after this it's already made like Nicholas Galitzini such a great start, because he's going to be He-Man after this, so I'm really excited for him in that. But I did really like both lead performances. I thought they did really well, because you'd expect Anne Hathaway to really steal the movie, but I thought that they both played 50-50, and I thought that they both had such great scenes. So the idea of you, I'm going to put in the good tier. Then we got Mother of the Bride, kind of like a different reimagining of Father of the Bride. This one did not work for me. This is Miranda Cosgrove attempting like a lead role in a movie. It's of course a Netflix movie. As I said, romance movies don't really work for me because they all feel like Hallmark movies, and this one truly felt like a Hallmark movie for me. I didn't think there was much really saving this movie. I didn't think there was much helping this movie. I will say a lot of moms will definitely enjoy this movie. It's made for them. It's really catered to them. It's not catered to someone like me, but if it was made better, I would enjoy it more than I enjoyed it. I didn't really enjoy it, let's just say that. But if it was made better, I would probably enjoy it, at least, because the filmmaking perspective on it, it's not really made that well. It's made for probably a really low budget. Performances are all right. Miranda Cosgrove, I don't really see her as a movie star, especially since she was in the show for most of her early life. So Mother of the Bride, first movie of the year, first movie of the month, going in the terrible tier. Next up we have Babes. People coming out of this one saying it's the best comedy of the past couple years, best comedy of the year. I wouldn't say that. I feel like it's a really good comedy. It's not the best comedy of the year. We'll get to what is the best comedy of the year, because it's in this month, and it's not the best comedy of the last 5 years. I think this one did premiere at a film festival. I'm not really sure which one, but I really did enjoy this one a lot. Lana Glazer really did steal the show for me, and I'm not really familiar with her work, but I'm gonna have to go look at her other movies or shows after this, because I thought that she was a really well received person in this movie by everyone else who actually saw it. Really like her screen presence here, and it's pretty funny at times. I wouldn't say every joke landed for me, because I think a lot of jokes aren't really catered to me, but at the same time I thought like at least 70% of the jokes landed for me. It kind of made me wish, because there's a moment in the film that I'm not going to spoil, it made me wish that the film was about that more than the film is actually about, which is kind of doesn't make any sense if you haven't seen the movie, but it kind of does go off the rails once you meet a certain character. You're like, oh, I love this character, I'd like to see more of him, but then that character is nowhere to be seen throughout the rest of the movie, so you'll have to find out if you do watch it. And I think it is paced pretty well. I'm not sure how long it is. I think it's only an hour 45, which makes sense for a comedy. So yeah, this one did work for me. Is it the best comedy of the year? No, but it's going in the good tier. Then we got Unfrosted, which if you've seen my review, I really did hate it, and I got kind of a lot of hate for hating it, but I'm not gonna really dig deep, and I'm not really gonna protest all that hate. If I hate a movie, I'm gonna say that I hate it. I'm not really gonna go with the popular opinion and say, oh, I loved it. But no, I hated Unfrosted. I don't like Jerry Seinfeld, so let's just get that going. Amy Schumer's in this. I don't like her. I think it's a very unfunny kind of parody of a movie that no one making it took seriously. So I really didn't have a fun time with it. I thought, if I wanted a Pop-Tart movie biopic, I would have wanted just a straightforward Pop-Tart biopic, not this kind of silly representation of like a fictional take on this world. And kind of, it all just looked kind of AI made in a sense. All the performances were really, really annoying at times. Just so many cameos in here that they thought that we were going to be like, oh, there's that person, there's that person. But no, I was just like, oh, really? Another character I have to really focus on here? So yeah, Unfrosted, I hated it. It's one of the worst movies of the year, so it's going in the terrible tier. Next up, we have Pool Man, almost as bad as Unfrosted, surprisingly. It's his Chris Pine's directorial debut, and he actually, I think he co-wrote this or wrote it all. I'm not really sure on that. But a fun story about this one. I saw this one really late at night, and I almost walked out of this one because I was pretty tired going into it, and I almost fell asleep a couple times, but I didn't fall asleep because I had like a pretty good soda by me to keep me awake. But yeah, I almost walked out a couple times. It is really bad. You really have to like really kind of have a different sense of humor to really enjoy this one. Chris Pine, it's called Pool Man, and I kind of wanted it to be about him being a pool man at that point, because throughout the movie he's not, it's not even the main focus of the movie, him being a pool man, not even the main focus. It's like him solving like a government kind of city crime in a sense kind of feel of a movie. It's not even about him being a pool man. Danny DeVito has a role in here. He's okay in here, but most of the problems lie with the script and the pacing and the kind of idea that Chris Pine was going for. His performance was okay, but at the same time, I don't really know how I feel about him directing any more movies after this. If he does, I'd probably want a different writer on the movie and a different idea. So Poolman is going in the terrible tier. Next up, we got the Garfield movie. Chris Pratt is of course voicing Garfield, and a lot of people have been complaining he's voicing too many kind of animated characters, and I kind of do agree with you after this, because with Mario, I didn't feel like he gave a bad performance. I think that was actually a pretty good voice for him to do, and I thought that he changed his voice just a little bit for that. This right here, he didn't change his voice at all. I feel like it was, not a great performance. It was just fine in my eyes. And Garfield, I'm actually kind of a big Garfield fan. I like that Garfield animated series back in the 2000s, so I was kind of interested to go see this. But this one is very childish, and it didn't really work for me like on a great level. It's not really like a terrible movie. It's just really one of those movies that you go out and are like, it was okay. I'm probably never gonna watch that again. But if kids watch it, they'll probably really enjoy it. It's a really stacked cast, and here you have like some people like Snoop Dogg, Hannah Waddingham, and you got some other great people in here. Some people you don't really get to see a lot. Ving Rhames, I think, is also in that. He's one of the stand-up performance in here. It's a pretty short movie, worked for me a lot. I think Baby Garfield really kind of made the movie for me. What a great character, what a cute character. Anytime you make like an animated character like a baby, it already gets 10 times better. But the Garfield movie, it didn't really move a lot of like needles for me, so I'm gonna just put it in the okay tier. Then we got Back to Black, the Amy Winehouse biopic that no one went to go see. Let's just say that it did not make a lot of money at all. And for me, I'm not the biggest Amy Winehouse fan. I don't really hate her, and I didn't really know much about her before going into it. Then I watched it and I'm like, wow, she was kind of not a great person. She was addicted to all those drugs and all that. That's basically how she died. And so she really was not a great person. Her singing was great. I'm not really that big a fan of her songs, but Back to Black is of course a classic song. And I didn't really care much about what she did after that, because I thought that she just wasn't a great person, addicted to all those drugs, doing all those bad things. And you could say, those drugs can really destroy you. You can't really get off of them. But she could have sought help. She could have. And, the thing about this one is that as a person that didn't really care about Amy Winehouse, watching this, it was kind of difficult because you wish you got more music compared to her personal life, because this is basically like 90% personal life, 10% music. And the most music that you get is basically Back to Black. There's not really a lot else in here. Performances were pretty decent, but the movie as a whole, it didn't really do a lot for me. So Back to Black, I'm going to put it in the bad tier. Then we got Atlas, another Netflix original that is just another piece of Netflix slop. It felt like it was made by AI, which is funny because the movie is about destroying AI in a sense. Jennifer Lopez and Simu Liu are the leads here. They both, I think they both given, some great performances, but this I think is some of their worst. I don't know if that was the script's issue or just the film's issue as a whole, or them as a whole, them going into it not caring about it. But if your lead performances are not great and the movie is probably not great, then you're just going to have a terrible movie overall. I really haven't seen many people that love this except Jennifer Lopez stans on Twitter. They're coming after me. I gotta protect myself around that. But yeah, there's not a really lot to love about this. I think the best part is the kind of the VFX and action sequences when they're really good. Some of them aren't great. It's only $100 million budget, but that's $100 million spent on a terrible movie. I think the best part about this was also the press tour when she was asked about Ben Affleck. Thought that was really funny, but Atlas as a movie, not good. So Atlas is going in the terrible tier. The Strangers Chapter 1 was my first ever Strangers movie that I've ever seen. I know there's like 2 other ones. Supposedly they're going to make 2 more chapters after this one, even though this one didn't do that well because they've already shot those. But wow, this movie, is very divisive, I'd say. I really thought it was fine. I didn't really think it was like that good, that great, or that terrible. Some people really hated it though. I think those are the actual fans of the Strangers movies. But yeah, I thought the performances here, I thought they were pretty good. The pacing of this movie kind of killed it for me because a lot of it is just them just walking around this town, walking around their house and all that, just those silly little jump scares before it gets really good by the end. Like the last 20 minutes were actually some really good stuff. The first kind of hour and 20 were some really hard stuff to get through, especially if you want to watch it again, which I'm probably not going to, because they're just trying to drag it out for 2 other movies. And I'm like, how are you going to drag it out for 2 other movies. By the end of this, I'm like, how is there 2 other movies? It just doesn't make much sense. Stranger's characters are pretty funny. They're like, because the two main characters are like, why are you here? And they're like, because you were, why are you doing this to us? And then strangers are like, because you were here, and like, because you were in the house. And I'm like, bro, that is such a weird reason to be doing this. But yeah, Strangers as a horror movie, it's kind of a weak year for horror in a sense, but it's, fits in the middle of the pack. So I'm going to put the Strangers Chapter 1 in the okay tier. Another horror movie we got this year was Tarot. This one didn't really move the needle for me at all, considering it's a horror movie about, it's a PG-13 horror movie, let's say. And I don't really want to spoil it, so I'm not really going to get into my big reasons why I hated it. Jacob Batalon is probably the biggest selling point of this movie, because, he's from the Spider-Man movies playing Ned. This is one major role outside of those movies, and didn't go great. It's not scary. It's so dark. Like, it's 90% dark, 10% light. If you were to watch this in your house, like in just pure daylight, you would not be able to see this movie. You wouldn't be able to see it at all. PG-13 horror movies just have this insane track record of usually not being good. There's that, 5% chance that they're really good. Really, 5% chance, that's the biggest I'll say, but they're just not good usually. And this one fits into that 95% chance that it's really bad. And it's kind of, there's some kind of standout scenes in here, especially with the costume design of like a clown character. But it is, oh my god, it just reminded me of like that one Truth or Dare movie starring Lucy Hale that doesn't really do much with its premise and just tries to get really over with it, and it has no really scary scenes. So Tarot is also going in the terrible tier. A lot of terrible movies this month. Then we got If. This one is clearly more divisive than I was expecting, because it's the most surprising movie of the year for me, because I didn't really go into it expecting a great time, but I really did have a great time with this one. It brought me back to my childhood of just enjoying life, enjoying these imaginary things in life that you can really attach to. I don't remember if I had an imaginary friend in my early life, but I know that there's a lot more stuff that I enjoyed in my early life compared to now, because I think that you should enjoy your early life before it gets to really that bad point in your life of like working full time, working that 9 to 5. And this movie really brought that out to me. You should look back on that early life and just appreciate it. Find some new stuff to enjoy in your later life that you can fully appreciate and fully make you enjoy life even more, because these kind of movies make me enjoy life so much, because it's just one of those harmless movies that you can just turn on. Some great performances, some great laughs, and it's kind of like its soundtrack was really great at some moments too, and it really had a great message of just enjoying your life, enjoying your childhood. Look back on your childhood, don't forget those important moments in your life. Ryan Reynolds is, of course, the leading performance in this, but I think Kaylee Fleming stole the show. She's, of course, known for The Walking Dead, but I thought she really was great here. Can't wait to see what Ryan Reynolds does in Deadpool Wolverine after this really childish movie. Now he's going to be in a really hard R movie, but If, really enjoyed it a lot. I'm putting it in a great tier. Next up, we got The Fall Guy. Oh my god, I love The Fall Guy. I loved it so much. I had some big, expectations going into this, because I'm, Ryan Gosling's biggest fan, my favorite actor of all time. So yeah, I had some big expectations, kind of like the Barbenheimer reuniting with him and Emily Blunt about, the stunt performance in the world, and how stunt performers should get that recognition, should be an Oscar for stunts, because stunts are a big part of movies throughout history. But I really did love this. It's so funny. I think every scene really did sell me on why I loved it even more. Kind of like whenever the first 5 minutes were starting, I was like, oh my god, I'm really loving this, because the opening of the film is just total one shot, which I thought was handled so well. And the opening credits was awesome too, because it was a new take on how I see opening credits, a new take on how it's done. And this film is on digital, but I really recommend seeing it in a theater, because I think it elevated the experience for me even more. Winston Duke is absolutely hilarious in this. He has this one scene where he's throwing people around, just naming like wrestlers and naming like famous actors names while he does it. It's really funny. Hannah Waddingham has a great role in here. And I thought just Ryan Gosling really did well, especially his romantic chemistry with Emily Blunt, because it is a comedy and it is a pure like action movie, but it is kind of like a pure romance at the same time. I feel like it's paced really well. Some people really did kind of feel that second act of the movie, which I kind of did, but that kind of helps it so it's not too perfect for me. But man, it's so good. The soundtrack is awesome too. Like whenever you play some AC/DC or some Kiss, I'm really gonna love your movie. And that's what I did for Fall Guy. Like there's some really great action sequences and stunt pieces in here. Ryan Gosling actually does some of his own stunt work in here. He doesn't do it all, because he has some stunt performance, but he does do it. Like if you watch the movie, the opening sequence is literally him doing that stunt. That it's so cool to see an actor do that. So I loved it. It's probably gonna be one of my favorites of the year, one of the most rewatchable movies of the year for me. Fall Guy is going in the amazing tier. Then we got Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. This was going to be a new, a new Planet of the Apes trilogy, and I think they're going to be making the other ones because I think it's doing pretty well at the box office. But yeah, I think this was going to be a hard movie to go into because I'm a big, fan of that trilogy with like Matt Reeves directing the best ones in there with Dawn the Planet of the Apes and War for the Planet of the Apes. So it was probably going to be a big task to do this one from Wes Ball. He's directing it, and I thought it really paid off for him because he only did the Maze Runner movies. Then he has this big task to do this new Planet of the Apes movie, which takes place 300 years after War for the Planet of the Apes. And let me say, I really did enjoy the opening of this movie. I thought it was really beautiful, really well handled. I thought the Wes Ball's direction here was outstanding. It makes me have really a lot of hope for him and doing that Zelda movie that he's going to do. But hopefully he comes back to do the rest of these Planet of the Apes trilogies because I don't know how well it will be doing without him here. I thought the performances here were really great, especially Owen Teague, Freya Allen, and Kevin Durand as the villain Proximus Caesar. Proximus Caesar was great. He's like, "What a wonderful day." I wish we got more of him. It's a little bit too long, I would say, which keeps it from being like a really amazing movie. I think it's like 2 hours 25 minutes. Probably could have been like 2:15, 2:10 at that sense. But yeah, I really do like how it's methodically paced, and I do love how it's like a pure adventure movie for the first half, and the second half it gets into really that ape versus ape and kind of like the action of ape versus ape or human and all that. So I really love it, and it's the best visual effects and performance capture I've seen since Avatar: The Way of Water. God, how they make the apes look so real is just crazy. And Raka the orangutan is just a pure comedic relief in this movie. I really love him a lot. Hopefully we get to see him again because he was great. And as I said, Owen Teague, such a great new kind of main protagonist after Caesar, and Freya Allen, I thought she was great too. So I'm gonna put Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes in the great tier. Next up, we got Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. Oh my goodness, what a movie. What a film. George Miller, this man is 79 years old, approaching 80, and he's still making movies like in this sense. And man is known for smaller movies too, like Happy Feet and Babe. But this is crazy. Him going from Mad Max to Mad Max Fury Road and then to this. Like this is like 9 years after Mad Max Fury Road, and it's still amazing. It looks very different because Mad Max Fury Road, I think that was filmed on film cameras, but this I think was filmed on digital, which I think makes for a more glossy movie. It looks very different, but I still really enjoyed the feel of this movie. And I will say that Anya Taylor-Joy is the lead of this, but Elijah Brown plays her for like the first 40-50 minutes of the movie as the young Furiosa. And I thought that she was fantastic. I mean, she really did sell the movie for what it's supposed to be. And then when Anya Taylor-Joy shows up, it's like hard to the metal because it gets really dark. Because you can't really be that dark when you have a child actor on set. But once you got to Anya Taylor-Joy, man, it got dark. And there's some amazing action sequence in here. Sure, the CGI sometimes isn't that great, but I can look past it and I can just see as George Miller, kind of like a different stylistic choice for him, so I will kind of look past that. But the action sequences here are off the walls. Not as great as Fury Road, but one of them here does kind of contest Fury Road, which is the War Rig. The War Rig action sequence went on for like 15 minutes, and there was just so many different great camera movements in here, so many great different things that I have never seen before done in the movie. Like there's some people kind of like skiing on sand, then opening their parachutes and shooting things, like throwing bombs at the War Rig. I'm like, holy crap. And then like this other thing that I'm not going to spoil if you haven't seen the movie, because go see the movie. It's not doing that well. I think it deserves all the money, but it's not doing that well, sadly. But there's one thing at the back of the War Rig that kind of like pulls something in, and that was really cool. That was awesome. And there's one sequence at a bullet farm that you finally get to see in this. That's why I love this movie. The world building is so much better than Fury Road. You get to see the bullet farm, you get to see Gas Town and all that, but there's one action sequence at the bullet farm which was great. Anna Taylor-Joy sold it. Her in the fifth part is amazing because there's 5 different chapters, so I think it's paced so well on that front. And Chris Hemsworth, man, I think this might be his best performance. He plays the villain here, Dementis, and he is a straight up silly guy, but I think he's kind of like menacing at the same time. The way he talks is actually hilarious because he has one of my favorite lines. He's like, he calls Furious, he's like, "You are a freak," and he's like, you remember that one line from the trailer, "Do you have it in you to make it epic?" That's so much better in the context of the movie and what takes place after that moment, because she did have it in her to make it epic. She really did make it epic there. Some people won't really like the look of the movie. As I said, it's really glossy, but I absolutely loved it. I've already seen it 3 times. I can't wait to see it even more and more in theaters, more and more when it comes out in physical. And let me just say, this movie has a cameo, and the ending makes it such a great double feature with Mad Max Fury Road. I don't think I'll ever be able to watch it at the house without Mad Max Fury Road after. I thought it was amazing. So Furiosa, I'm gonna put in the amazing tier. The last movie we have to rank is Young Woman in the Sea. This is the new true story about Trudy Ederle, who swam the English Channel, the first woman to ever do it. And this one was actually kind of shocking. You know, I went into it expecting it to be kind of like, no offense to Back to Black, but kind of like Back to Black. True story that doesn't really do much for the biopic genre, but I will say it really did shock me. It being 2 hours, I was kind of worried it was gonna be too long, but I really did like this one a lot. And Daisy Ridley is the lead of this movie, and it might be her best movie since The Force Awakens. And it's one of the only movies I've heard from her where she speaks in an American accent opposed to her actual regular accent that she speaks in. And I thought that she was great. She's really good in these kind of character roles compared to like the genre movies that she does with like Chaos Walking, Star Wars and all that, because she's been stuck in the Star Wars kind of fandom for a long time, getting a lot of hate there, and then she's going to go back to it, sadly. We'll see how that turns out. But yeah, I thought that she was great here. I mean, she really did nail every single scene that she was in. She had this great screen presence, and it's one of those movies where it's like motivational. I will say it's kind of like the movie from last December, The Boys in the Boat, if you remember that. I saw that. I think this is better than The Boys in the Boat. Boys in the Boat, I felt like it was like really average, didn't really do too much for me. This one I feel like is a lot better than that. So if you did like that one, go see this one in theaters. It really was a great time, and it's probably not going to make a lot because, you know, no one's going to see movies in theaters, but I hope Disney keeps it in theaters long enough this summer for people to go see it, because I think it's one of the summer's probably biggest hits so far for me. Critically, financially, probably not, but yeah, that's not really the point. The point is for me to review it, talk about how good it is, and I thought it was a really good movie. So Young Woman in the Sea is going in the good tier. So now it's our best part, the most fun part of the video, which is going to be to put these all in a ranking. Terrible tier. Holy crap, 5 terrible movies this month. Mostly all from Netflix and 2 from the theaters, which I will say watching them on Netflix is a little bit easier because I can actually, you know, pause it while watching in the theater. I'm like, oh, I want to go home, but let's do it. Unfrosted is probably going to go at the last place. Then I would probably put Pool Man, then Atlas, and then Tarot, then Mother of the Bride. I feel like that would be the way I'll do it. Bad tier, I'd probably put Back to Black higher than Prom Dates because its production value is a little bit better. The okay tier, I'd probably keep it like that. I like Garfield a little bit more. Now the good tier, we finally get to the good movies. There's actually a decent amount of good movies compared to bad movies, kind of like split down the middle, so it makes it out to be a pretty good month. The good tier, I will go Turtles All the Way Down first. I feel like that's a really good movie right there. Then I'm actually going to put Young Woman in the Sea in second, The Idea of You, and then Babes, because I feel like Babes could have been a lot funnier than it was, but it still was pretty funny. Now we go into the great tier. We had 3 movies here. If I'm going to put in last place, and then first place on here, I'm going to put Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I would do I Saw the TV Glow, but it's not one that I'll probably go back to, and I really do kind of try to rank these on rewatchability on which ones I rewatch the most. So that's our great tier. The amazing tier, 2 movies this month with Furiosa and The Fall Guy. I feel like it's pretty easy here. I'm going to put Furiosa in that first position. Just a movie I see myself revisiting more, especially with Mad Max Fury Road. As much as I love The Fall Guy, Furiosa is just, you know, the best action movie of the year. So many great moments, and Taylor-Joy is absolutely one of my favorite actresses working right now. But yeah, it's so easy right here. The 2 of the best movies of the month contain, you know, basically 2 of my favorite actors and actresses right now. It's great. So that's my ranking of all the new movies I saw in May in theaters and on streaming. And, you know, next month is June, so we're going to have an interesting time in June because there's not a lot of movies coming out in June, mostly all TV shows, which we will talk about. Not a lot of movies to look forward to, but there's a lot of May movies if you need to catch up on them. But if you did see any of these movies, make sure to leave your ranking down below. That's all this for this video. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.